They carry with them their sentinels, their private guard. It is an ancient pact. In exchange for sustenance, the oxpecker offers its eyes. A piercing cry is the price of passage, a signal that can mean the difference between life and a sudden, violent death. On the savanna, the terrain shapes not only the path of the herbivores, but also the strategy of the predators. The lion, the king of the wild, understands this better than anyone. But the lion does not rely on brute force alone. They are master strategists, using the landscape to turn narrow corridors into perfect traps. These corridors are often bottlenecks on the migration routes, a small canyon between two hills. A narrow strip of land between rivers, or a grassland bordering a thicket. The lions know this. They lie hidden in the tall grass, their bodies blending with the golden hue of the savanna, their breathing slow but alert. A lead lioness, honed by years of hunting, signals her pride with subtle flicks of her tail. The other lionesses, often her sisters or daughters, move into position. As the herd approaches, tension fills the air. The thundering of hooves, the cries of lost young, and the smell of dust create a chaotic scene. Yet the lions remain still, as patient as ghosts. Then, in a fleeting moment when a young or weak wildebeest strays from the herd, the ambush is sprung. Not every hunt is successful. The wildebeest, though prey, are not easily defeated. With their vast numbers and strong survival instincts, they can form a living wall. A young, inexperienced lion risks serious injury if it targets a healthy wildebeest. In these moments, the savanna becomes an arena where the predator's strength is pitted against the prey's unity. If the lion is a patient strategist, then the hyena is a relentless opportunist, with its eerie calls echoing in the night. The hyena embodies persistence and ruthlessness. Lacking the overwhelming power of the lion, it compensates with fearsome intelligence and unparalleled stamina. During the migrations, hyenas shadow the zebra herds, keeping just enough distance to remain undetected. The zebras, with their striking black and white stripes, move in tight formations, protecting one another from danger. But the long journey of hundreds of miles across the savannah drains their strength. The young, the old, or the injured fall behind, becoming prime targets. This is when the hyenas strike. Unlike the lion, the hyena rarely attacks a healthy herd head-on. Instead, it waits patiently. Hyenas are not just predators. They are scavengers, ready to steal kills from lions or cheetahs. A pack of hyenas, with their superior numbers, can force a lone lion to abandon its prey. The clashes between hyenas and lions are noisy battles, where the roar of the lion mixes with the cold, laugh-like calls of the hyena, creating a chaotic symphony of the savannah. On the savannah, every ambush is a battle for survival, where speed, stamina, and strategy determine who lives and who falls. For herbivores like the wildebeest and the zebra, speed is their greatest weapon. A wildebeest can reach speeds of up to 50 miles per hour in seconds. The zebra, though not as fast, possesses remarkable stamina, maintaining a high speed over long distances to exhaust a predator. But speed alone is not always enough. Stamina is just as crucial, especially during migrations that span hundreds of miles. Conversely, predators also need stamina to keep up with their prey. The herbivores have their own strategies. Wildebeest move in large herds, creating a chaos that makes it difficult for a predator to single out a target. Zebras, with their disorienting striped patterns, confuse predators, making it hard to identify an individual in the herd. A wildebeest might pretend to run slowly to draw out a predator, then suddenly bolt. A lion might feign giving up the chase, only to strike again when the prey is off guard. In these ambushes, there are no true winners or losers. Lions and hyenas, though fearsome predators, play a vital role in maintaining the balance of the savanna. By culling the weak, the old, or the sick, they ensure that only the fittest individuals survive to pass on their genes. Conversely, the prey shapes the destiny of the predators through their resilience and strategy. On the African savanna, where life and death are intertwined in every breath, nature is not just a stage, but a formidable opponent. When the rainy season arrives, bringing with it endless floods, muddy plains, and raging rivers, the migration of millions of wildebeest, zebras, and buffalo becomes a brutal battle against the elements. When the first rains fall, the savanna transforms in an instant. The arid grasslands, once scorched by the dry season's sun, are now submerged in water. For the wildebeest and the zebra, which rely on speed for survival, the mud is a fearsome enemy. Their slender legs, designed for sprinting across the plains, sink deep into the thick mud, slowing them down. A herd of zebras, their black and white stripes shimmering in the sun, moves slowly through a flooded plain. The young foals, with their weak legs, stumble in the knee-deep mud. In these moments, nature spares neither prey nor predator. All must face the brutality of the land. The floods do not just slow movement, they turn the grasslands into deadly traps. The low-lying areas where rainwater collects into temporary lakes become invisible snares. If the mud is an unseen enemy, then the raging rivers are the most terrifying challenge of the migration. Rivers like the Mara, the Grumeti, or the Chobe, mere trickles in the dry season, become roaring beasts in the rainy season. For the wildebeest, zebra, and buffalo, crossing these rivers is not a choice, but a command of survival. When a herd of wildebeest, numbering in the tens of thousands, gathers on the banks of the Mara River, the air becomes thick with tension. Beneath the murky surface, dangers lurk. The roar of the rushing water mixes with the cries of the young wildebeest, creating a chaotic symphony of life. Then, as if driven by an unseen signal, one wildebeest leaps into the water, triggering a stampede of thousands. But the river is merciless. The young wildebeest, too weak to fight the current, are swept away, their small bodies disappearing in the flow. The zebras, with their incredible stamina, try to swim across, but even they cannot always defy the power of nature. Beneath the murky waters of the river, another threat awaits: the Nile crocodile. These monsters, up to 20 feet long, with jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth, are the perfect assassins of the savannah. With deadly patience, the crocodiles wait for the perfect moment to strike, turning the rivers into bloody arenas. For the crocodile, time is not measured in days, but by the coming of the herds. An ancient rhythm beats in its cold blood, a memory not of years, but of seasons of abundance. It is an appointment with destiny, and they travel for miles to keep it, drawn to this place by a promise of blood written in the river's current. This calculation shows a level of intelligence and learning far beyond what we typically associate with reptiles. Not all prey falls easily. A buffalo, with its immense strength and sharp horns, can fight back, goring a crocodile and escaping its jaws. But for the young or weak animals, rivers like the Mara are a gauntlet that few survive. Each year, thousands of wildebeest and zebras perish in the rivers. Under the scorching African sun, every challenge of nature, from floods and mud to raging rivers, is part of an endless cycle of life and death. Every wildebeest that drowns, every zebra dragged underwater by a crocodile, is a price paid for the herd to continue its journey. But death is not an end. It is part of a renewal where every fallen creature nourishes another. In the harshness of nature, every loss is part of a larger tapestry. The wildebeest herds, despite losing thousands in each migration, continue to thrive with new calves born each year. Above all, the savannah lives, breathes, and tells its story through every drop of rain, every river, and every footstep of the creatures that call it home. When the last rains have fallen and the sun once again scorches the savanna, the dry season returns, bringing with it a harsh silence. The lush grasslands turn yellow and brittle. The rivers recede, and the wetlands dry into cracked earth. Yet, even in this harshness, the savanna never stops moving. The migration sparked by the rains now reverses. The wildebeest, zebra, and buffalo return to their lands, awaiting the next rainy season. As the dry season arrives, the migration routes become journeys of return. The wildebeest, having left the Serengeti for the Masai Mara, now head back, guided by instincts honed over millions of years. The zebras, after grazing on the mineral-rich salt pans of Botswana, return to the wetlands of the Chobe River. The African elephants, with their remarkable memory, lead their herds back to the arid lands in search of hidden underground water sources. This return journey is no less perilous. Without the floods or the raging rivers, the dry season brings new challenges. Water becomes increasingly scarce, and the grasslands are depleted. The weak, old or young, who survived the rainy season now face the culling of the dry season. Yet, in this harshness, the savanna forges new generations, preparing them for the challenges to come. When the dry season arrives, a miracle takes place: the birth of new generations. The wildebeest calves, with their trembling legs and wide eyes, take their first steps just hours after birth. The zebra foals, their faint stripes barely visible, stay close to their mothers, learning to recognize danger from the roar of a lion or the scent of a hyena on the wind. The elephant calves, with their clumsy trunks and tiny ears, follow the wise matriarchs, learning to use their trunks to drink or pull up grass. They learn to survive through harsh lessons, how to escape the claws of a cheetah, how to find water in a drought, or how to unite with the herd to fend off threats. Some will not survive their first dry season, falling to nature or to a predator. But those who survive carry the strength of their ancestors within them. On the African savanna, there is no beginning or end. Every rainy season, every dry season, every migration, birth, and death is part of an endless cycle. The wildebeest, zebra, elephant, water birds, and even the tiny insects all contribute to the rhythm of life. The animals lost in the rivers or to predators feed the crocodiles, vultures, and insects, nourishing the land for the grasslands to be reborn. The seeds dispersed by the small antelopes and water birds sprout into shrubs, providing shelter and food for the next generation. Beyond the natural challenges of floods, mud, raging rivers, and the claws of predators, the wildlife now faces man-made threats. Climate change, habitat loss, poaching, and human-wildlife conflict are endangering the ancient migration routes. Yet, amidst these challenges, conservation efforts have sparked hope, offering a chance for the savanna to continue its timeless rhythm. The African savanna, long shaped by the rhythm of the wet and dry seasons, now faces disruption from climate change. The rains, which once reliably revived the grasslands and filled the rivers, have become erratic. Some years, the rains come late, leaving the grasslands arid for longer. Prolonged, more intense floods turn rivers like the Mara or the Grumeti into deadly torrents, sweeping away thousands of animals. Conversely, extended droughts deplete the underground water sources. The rising temperatures also affect the smaller species like water birds and insects. The temporary wetlands where storks and spoonbills nest disappear due to drought.